Hello everyone, and welcome to the 13th episode of WONDERTALK, where I talk about my character's background, history, and story as I go through the playthrough of the Sith Inquisitor storyline. In the 13th episode of the playthrough, we finally reached the Dark Temple, and a Dark Temple it was indeed. There was all kinds of crazy Sith ghosts, possessed slaves, evil Force users, and people who thought they were Force users. Definitely a lot of interesting quests in that area. But the crown jewel of that episode's quest was definitely the one we finished at, where we finally entered the deepest sanctum of the Dark Temple. And if you do not want any spoilers about the Sith Inquisitor story, please leave now. I've been obviously talking about the story the entire time, but this is a major spoiler and a huge, plot twist, and if you don't want to hear about it, or you want to save the Sith Inquisitor story for yourself, you may want to skip the rest of this episode. I'll try and continue the warnings, but I can't always promise I'll remember. So we reached the deepest area of the temple where Lord Calig's casket seemed to be. And Lord Calig was an extremely powerful Sith Lord. We don't actually know a lot in Star Wars lore, and including our own story so far, about Lord Calig. We can actually only assume he was a powerful Sith Lord. Usually only powerful Sith Lords become Force ghosts, and also his association with Tulak Hord. Tulak Hord was one of the lore greats, so just by association, pretty good chance he was a really strong guy. He said he could have done better, and he could have ensured greatness for his family and lineage to come, but instead he did something else, we don't know exactly what, that made it so that wasn't possible. And what he told Javiik when Javiik entered was that Javiik was a part of his bloodline, the son of his son's sons, way down the line. When I played my first Sith Inquisitor, so many years ago, I didn't have a ton of backstory for her. I just kind of rolled with the story as it came. So of course when Lord Calig told her that you are my ancestor, daughter of my sons of my sons of my sons, I just kind of accepted it and said, yeah, of course, so many interesting things have happened to me so far, and so many crazy things have happened that I've survived through. Of course, that makes sense that I'm related to an ancient Sith who is now a Force ghost and trying to live vicariously through me. But this time I'm playing on Javiik, and as you guys know so far, we've put a lot of thought and interest and love into Javik's backstory, including his family. So we know that Cathar is his species. His parents were, as far as I know, Cathar, and probably his grandparents, and probably his great-great-grandparents. After that, we're probably not too sure. But luckily, lineages can go a long way back and still be related to somebody. We don't even know exactly... Oh, I'm not sure when Tulak Hord was around. Let me go look that up. Oh gosh, I just looked it up. So, Tulak Hord died well before 5600 BBY. And Star Wars The Old Republic happens about halfway through 3600 BBY. That's a huge difference. That's like a 2,000 year difference. So it could be Javik's great grandpa. Could be Lord Calig. Probably add in like a few more greats there and we'll be good to go. But since we're actually so familiar with Javik's backstory, we know who his parents were, we know where he lived. He grew up on Alderaan, some point way back when. His more recent ancestors fled Cathar, the planet. We know that they probably lived on Cathar a very long time. We know actually that we decided somewhere along his lineage there was a Force user that kind of gave it up for the more simple life, but we obviously don't know about his ancestors 2,000 years ago, and there's literally no way to actually find out. So here's my question for you guys today. Do you think that Lord Calig is actually Javik's blood relation? Do you think that somewhere way up Javik's Cathar line had a child with Calig, and that child had a child, and eventually that child had a child whose name was Javiik? That'd be really interesting, because that would mean even his mother and his father, or one of the two, was related to Calig himself and carried his blood. I mean, technically they could both be carrying it, but let's not think too much about that. Or do you think Calig isn't actually blood related to Javiik, but was in some other way pulled towards him? We know that Javiik has had quite a humble upbringing, so it doesn't really make sense that he'd be related to Calig. But he has done some amazing things so far, and he has had some very interesting things happen to him. We've already seen one other master, or two masters, his former master that we made up, Lord Shallan, and Lord Zash, have both kind of handpicked him out, found him in a crowd, brought him up from humble origins, and really felt it was worth their time to invest in him for whatever nefarious or experimental or interesting reasons. Is there any reason why Khaled couldn't be doing the same? And the blood thing is because he's a crazy Force Sith ghost, or just a way to manipulate Javiik? We don't know for sure. So what do you guys think is the truth? Or rather, since this is our story and we get to make it up, what do you think should be the truth? I'm really looking forward to seeing your comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of The Wondrous Star Wars: The Old Republic and Wonder Talk. Oh, I forgot to mention something important. If you're watching through the episodes and you can't see some of the ones in between, like there should be 1, 2, 3 up fairly easily to find, and you should be able to find the most recent ones. I just hid the ones in between, but don't worry, you can always find them on the playlist.